Hello, everybody. I'm Cameron Bailey, and this is Stay at Home Cinema. Tonight, we're watching Pan's Labyrinth all across Canada on Crave, thanks to our friends at Crave. And we're going to be joined by the director of the film, Guillermo del Toro, in a moment. We are watching at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 4:30 p.m. on the West Coast. So please join us there. You can find it on Crave if you're in Canada. If you're not, track down Pan's Labyrinth wherever you can. We're going to be watching it together, and we're going to get some thoughts from Guillermo del Toro on the film. Before we do that, first, I want to just give some shout outs. First, we want to acknowledge where we are in Canada on Turtle Island, and to acknowledge and thank Indigenous storytellers who've been keeping their stories alive for countless generations, all of those storytellers and their communities. Shout out to all levels of government. TIFF gets supported by the Government of Canada, the Government of Ontario, and the City of Toronto. I want to thank them, but I especially want to thank the workers who are putting in extra time right now. If you're working for the government and you're on the front line trying to make sure that this country keeps going, thank you. Thanks to all frontline workers, and a shout out to everyone tonight. I want to give a special shout out to North York General Hospital in Toronto. My mother worked at North York for over 30 years as an emergency room nurse. She's no longer with us, but if she was still working, she would be on the front line. I myself worked at that hospital for a few years as well in high school, and I know how hard it is to work in a hospital, especially now, I would imagine. So thanks to all of you. We want to thank all of the organizations who make what we do possible. Our lead sponsor, Bell, our major sponsors, RBC, L'Oreal Paris, and Visa, and also all of our donors and our members, maybe some of you watching tonight. Thank you for your continued support of TIFF. We really do appreciate it. Roger Ebert called Pan's Labyrinth one of the greatest of all fantasy films. It premiered at the Cannes Film Festival in 2006. It made its North American premiere at the Elgin Theatre on Yonge Street at the Toronto Film Festival that same year. Went on to win loads of awards, including 3 Academy Awards for art direction, cinematography, and makeup, 3 BAFTA Awards, Mexico's Ariel Award for Best Picture. Just a terrific film. If you've seen it before, you're going to want to see it again. And find new things in it, as you always do with a Guillermo del Toro film. And if you haven't seen it before, you are really in for a treat. This movie shows us Del Toro's ability to weave together fantasy, horror, drama, and political allegory. It also gave us a particularly Del Toro kind of monster. Terrifying and fragile at the same time, beautiful and deadly. He is a singular beam of brilliance in this world in contemporary cinema, and I really feel lucky to be living at the same time that Guillermo del Toro is making movies. Please join me in welcoming Guillermo del Toro to Stay at Home Cinema. Guillermo, how you doing?
Very good, my friend.
Good.
Very happy to be here.
I'm glad that you can join us. Can you first tell us where you are? Where are you quarantining right now?
I'm quarantined in Toronto.
In Toronto, cool.
We were shooting Nightmare Alley, and of course we stopped voluntarily early on. I'm happy to report that because we stopped voluntarily early on, we prevented coronavirus cases in our cast and crew. Yes. But at the same time, we started trying to prepare for when would we reopen, and then the borders closed, and I'm here with a lot of chili and toilet paper.
You're welcome.
But the good news is I'm learning to cook.
Oh, you're learning to cook, yeah?
I've gone from atrocious to digestible. Yes.
By the time this ends, you're going to be a chef, man.
But look at these chicks. Look at these chicks. Yes, the quarantine cheek.
Now, I hear that the idea for the movie we're going to watch tonight, Pan's Labyrinth, came from your notebooks. You have been known for drawing, for doing illustrations for years and years, and ideas come out of that. Can you talk a little bit about where the story and where the film came from?
Well, it comes from my earliest memories. I mean, it really, when I was a kid, I used to see a faun come out from behind the armoire in my grandma's house. It's what they call lucid dreaming or night terrors. I don't know. I was asleep but dreaming that I was in the same place that I had fallen asleep in, and I used to have these things. And the relationship with monsters with me is absolutely singular in the sense that they are not they are fused with who I am in a way that is it it allowed me to exist. I think there were many things when I was a child that were that terrified me, and without going into details or going through harrowing things, and at some point, the creation of these creatures since I was a kid basically allowed me to understand the world. It is very much. It is not a mannered mm, geek fanboy appreciation. It really is as intimate as religion would be to other people. And in that instance, I wanted, for example, 20 some, no more, like almost in 87, 89, Alfonso Cuarón and I were working on a TV program, and we co-wrote a story. I came up with the story, and we co-wrote the screenplay, and I played the monster about a girl that lived with an abusive father and had to go into the sewers to recuperate a pocket watch, and she found out that ogres lived in the sewers, and she ended up choosing to live in the sewers rather than at home. Basically, that's my fantasy as a kid, that I would find another place inhabited by monsters, and I could actually find it more logical than the regular world. And it's been with me since my childhood. And if you look at many of my movies, that's what they say. They basically uh, present the monster as a way to interpret the world.
And when did you start drawing these monsters in the lucid dreams you were having?
Ever since I was a kid, my great aunt, whom I called my grandma, because I didn't have a grandma. My mother's mother died at childbirth. But this great aunt that I grew up with a lot, she hated monsters. And I kept drawing them, and she would try to bribe me to stop drawing them. But I kept the little drawings, and
And you
then
kept showing them to her?
yes, and she would cry.
Really?
She would cry. She would say, "Why? You're such a good boy. Why are you drawing such horrible things?"
Hmm.
And I used to say, "They're beautiful. They're beautiful to me." But the first time I started formalizing the drawings into a diary was around the time of Kronos in 91 and 90 probably, and that helped me a lot to communicate with the art department or the wardrobe department, and it became institutionalized for me since then. I started, and when I would go look, people look at a career and they say, "Oh, he's done this, he's done that," but between Kronos and Mimic, there's 5 years, half a decade without working, and the only outlet was drawing these monsters, planning, writing, and I wrote about 5 movies or so that never happened. Then between Mimic and Devil's Backbone, 5 more years.
Wow.
So I've had a 25 to 30-year career, and out of that, a third of it was inactive, at least.
Not making movies, but doing other things, writing.
So yeah, writing. I've written or co-written about 30, 31 screenplays,
Yeah.
and I've done only 10 movies.
There's a fairy tale element to Pan's Labyrinth with the little girl who, as you say, goes underground like Alice in Wonderland, or enters this scary place like Little Red Riding Hood or Goldilocks. Can you tell me just a little bit about, how consciously you were drawing on those other older fairy tales in making this movie?
Oh, very meticulously. I was very meticulous. The first thing I did was I got. I had already read Bruno Bettelheim and Maria Tatar and all the sort of staples, obviously Joseph Campbell and all that. I had already read all of that, but when I was preparing for Pan's Labyrinth, I went and bought really much rarer texts. Since I was a kid, I've been collecting fairy tales. There's a collection by Andrew Lang. He was a very interesting writer in England, and he curated a series of fairy tale books coded in color. The pink fairy book, the blue fairy book, which you can easily find online or on iBooks, or if anyone is curious, they're not hard to come by. There's been edited many times by Dover, by Folio. And this man was very interesting for me. And then through exploring, there was a moment in Victorian culture where there were very interesting texts, and Edwardian England, where there were very interesting texts written about fairy tales. One of them was called The Science of Fairy Tales. Other ones were like Goblins of Great Britain. They were halfway between folklore and tales and almost anthropology. And so I took these books and I flew to Spain, to Madrid, alone. And I locked myself in a really, really inexpensive little hotel room. And I would read and annotate everything that made a fairy tale a classic. So things like the rule of three. In the fairy tales, there is a thing called the rule of three, which is Goldilocks comes to the house and finds 3 bowls of porridge,
right.
Big one, a medium, and a little one.
Yeah.
A girl goes to a palace and finds 3 bird cages for the golden bird. One is made of wood, one is made of silver, one is made of gold, and she chooses the most humble one, and therefore she's rewarded. And I think it's a very Catholic motif, the Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, etc., etc., etc. And I think that's one. Another one, for example, in the Pale Man is what is called the fairy banquet, which appears in hundreds of fairy tales, where somebody comes in and they say, "Do not
eat
anything." And of course, in the fairy tale, they're gonna eat.
Right.
Or the same when a Bluebeard telling his wife, "Do not open this door." Of course, she's gonna open it.
Right.
But I distilled all this on my notebook. What were the motifs? What were, and then I looked for alchemical ideas in there. It was about a year of just distilling stuff previous to actually setting pen to paper.
Fantastic. We have some questions from TIFF members. I want to get to those. I've got so many questions for you, but I know we only have limited time with you. So let me just jump into one of the questions from Nancy Kriparos, who's the Contributors Circle TIFF member. And she says, you said that growing up you felt like an outsider, which attracted you to monsters. Could you elaborate?
Yeah, I mean, look, everything, as a kid, nothing made sense to me when I was very little. My grandmother explained to me original sin, and she said, you're going to burn in hell. You're going to burn in purgatory. Purgatory. No matter what, how good you are, you were born with original sin, so you're going to burn for a long, long time in purgatory. And I couldn't understand it. I was full of terror. The world was, the adults would say something and do something else, completely the opposite. And I would not, and they would profess to love you and they would beat you. They would profess to love each other and they would cheat on each other. You name it. I was 70 years old at age 7. I was really like a philosopher, consumed with doubt, terror, and existential dread. And then at some point, the monsters allowed me not only to find creatures that whatever you saw, that's what they were. There was no double meaning. There was no double nature. You know, you would see it at a glance. And they also allowed me, like parables in the Bible, they allowed me to interpret human behavior. You know, To give you an example, to me, the Frankenstein monster, the creature as played by Boris Karloff, was martyrdom, and was also youth, created by an uncaring father, thrown into a world he didn't understand, trying to seek answers. There were sort of essential questions that these monsters explained to me, and they became a gospel.
Their way to understand yourself and your own place in the world.
And the world. I mean, when people say, and this is, there are two big misinterpretations for me, one on Shape of Water and one on this one, where people say the central character in Shape of Water is alone, is lonely. I go, no, she's the only character that is not lonely. The other guys are, but she actually sees everyone. She sees her neighbor, she sees her friend, blah, blah, blah. And the other one in this one, in Pan's Labyrinth, people say, oh, the girl escapes into a world of fantasy. Sorry, it was extremely deliberate for me to make the world of fantasy as terrifying as the real world, as challenging, but allow her to come to moral conclusions and interpret her place in the world and her idea of justice and ethics and humanity, blah, blah, blah.
No, it makes sense. Ben White, another TIFF member, has a question for you. What are your thoughts on practical effects for movie monsters compared to CGI monsters? Do you think it makes a difference to the audience?
I think it does. I mean, look, we are at a point where, to give you an example, on Hellboy 2, we have a character that is called the Angel of Death. We went through huge lengths to mechanize 4 wings full of eyes that were blinking and moving for real, mechanically. And when the audience sees it, a lot of people say, I love the CG on that. so really, in that term, the audience may say, oh, it's an effect. And in that, we're poorer, but there's something artisanal and artistic and beautiful with the physical effect that invites the accident. Digital is the recreation of the entire physical existence of the object, the way the light refracts, the way dust motes are going to move around it. You have to think about all that and try to recreate it, and you are not going to be able to. Whereas if you place a creature in a beam of light in a real set, it's going to move and accidents are going to happen. A little refraction, a specular highlight, a little drop of drool, whatever it is it exists, is there, and the audience feels it, no matter what.
On that point, can you tell us a little bit about Doug Jones, who plays both the Faun and the Pale Man, and he's been with you over many films. Remarkable performer, and I just want people, especially if they're watching for the first time, just to understand the craft that goes into those performances.
Well, Doug Jones, I met in Canada, here in Toronto, in 1996. Well, we were shooting Mimic, and he came in, and he was really, really good at mime and a suit performer. They're great actors. So many great actors cannot perform under makeup. I can quote examples, but it will be too demeaning. But a few of them can, and then there is a special person that can create a character through makeup and animatronics, and that's one of them is Doug Jones. Doug is a genius, and I wrote the movie thinking of him. I already had done Hellboy, Mimic. We knew each other. He was great as Abe Sapien, my first amphibian man in the first Hellboy. And I thought, I wrote this, Doug thought I was casting him as both parts to save money. And I told her, no, the actual, there's a meaning because the faun tests the girl. And he is the frog, and the faun plays the pale man in my imagination. And there's a little clue in the movie, if you watch carefully, the fairies that are devoured by the pale man, they come back at the end, which means they were never killed. So
that's good to know.
Yeah,
that's a
horrifying thing. And I said to Doug, you have to play them And obviously, not only that, the faun goes from being really old and creepy and trembling to being this almost like Mick Jagger-esque rock
Yeah, he's got
star.
a bit of a strut to him.
So as the girl progresses through the tests, the faun rejuvenates, and Doug had to play all of that. Several of the scenes he had to walk backwards and talk backwards because I wanted the faun to move a little strange and disappear into the shadows and all that. And he had to learn phonetic Spanish
Oh my God.
backwards. He's a great guy. And I think his most glorious monster is the amphibian man in Shape of Water.
Shape of Water. No, fantastic. Guillermo, thank you so much. Maybe I'll ask one last thing before we get to the film. We're going to start this film at 7:30 Eastern if you're watching, so please sync up your device, your app, whatever you're using, because we're going to watch it together across Canada. If there's somebody out there who is watching Pan's Labyrinth for the very first time, what's one thing you want them to look for?
Well, I think what I think is fantasy to me is not for everyone. A lot of people despise it. A lot of people see it as a childish concern, and I've experienced it. I could tell you many stories, but a lot of people just simply despise it or discard it. And what I would say is the beauty in this movie is the humanity. You can do all the creatures and all the fabulation and beautiful sets, but if it doesn't move you and destroys you a little and cracks something, because fantasy liberates us and it makes us humble and it allows us to go into a place where we believe again and we recuperate a little faith and we don't look for answers as we do very boringly every day. So abandon yourself to a little bit of this, stop looking for answers, start believing a little, and you will be rewarded with a beautiful elation.
Beautifully said, Guillermo. Thank you so much. Thank you for making at least part of your home in Toronto. We hope you stay well and safe.
I've been a while here.
Okay.
If you find some missing toilet paper, it's me.
All right, I may see you in the grocery store at some point.
All right,
Thank you so much. We're going to watch Pan's Labyrinth now. Thank you, Guillermo. Take care.
You. See you later.
Bye-bye.